I'll call this meeting of the Groveland Conservation Commission to order at 7 PM on Wednesday, September 27th, 2023. Is there a motion to open the meeting?
Make a motion to open the meeting?
Second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay. We do not have any members remote, right? Okay, so we don't need roll call votes. All right, so we have a pretty limited agenda tonight. We'll have one public hearing. We'll approve some minutes and may have a couple of other things to discuss. We had some things to sign, right?
The clipboard is right in front of Rich, actually, to your left.
Right there.
I think that only needs one signature and it's all set,
The
right?
106 King Street, Katy Lane, order of conditions only needs one more, so Rich can do that one.
Yep.
And then the other one in there is the 37 Dwinell order of conditions.
Okay.
So it's those two.
Yep.
All were previously approved. This is just the sign off on the permit.
Yes.
Can we discuss the 37 Dwinell one prior to signing it?
Yes, but we'll wait until after we
Yes.
get past the public hearing, Stephanie, so just remind me.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a public hearing tonight, only one, on a new notice of intent filed for 912 Salem Street for the construction of a 22,000 square foot contractor's yard warehouse building and associated drainage structures within jurisdictional area. So is there a motion to open the hearing?
Make a motion to open the hearing on 912 Salem Street.
Second it?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion on the motion? No? So we'll take a vote. All in favor of opening the hearing for 912 Salem Street, say aye.
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 Okay, passes unanimously. All right, so I think we do have the application before us, and being represented by LEC Environmental Consultants, so we'll turn it over to you.
They are remote.
Oh, they're remote.
Remote participating.
Okay.
Dan and April are here.
Oh, okay.
Hi, good evening. I'm Dan Wells with LEC Environmental and also April Ferraro from RJ O'Connell Associates with me. So if you don't mind, I'll share my screen.
Perfect.
Okay, so this is 912 Salem Street. Notice of intent. I just wanted to start out by orienting the commissioners to where the property is located. So you can see the property outlined in red. This is Salem Street, and this is Route 97. On the northeast portion of the property is the Groveland Community Trail, the bike path, which was recently completed. As you can see from this map, that the shading and the hatching indicates that the property, most of the property is mapped as a natural heritage priority habitat and estimated habitat area. This is an ortho photo. It again shows the priority habitat and estimated habitat hatching on the property. So it's a 22.3 acre site, and the down here on the southwestern corner, there's an existing house, and then garage and some other sheds. There's, you can't see it too well, but behind the house, there's an open kind of field that has like a garden. And beyond that, it's mostly, there's a big central wetland system, and it extends down to the south. But up in the northern part of the property, there's a big big patch of upland forest, which is surrounded by wetlands, again, to the east and southeast. This is a view of the existing conditions, just generally of the whole project property. So again, it's 22.3 acres. And so you can see this is the area of the existing structures just off of Salem Street. And what's interesting is you can see there's a first path that spans across the wetland system and converges out into this big upland area. And it's important to note as part of this project that the work will be limited to just this portion. There's not going to be any, the applicant did not pursue crossing the wetland and developing into these uplands. So part of that was based on initial meetings that were taking place with the Natural Heritage Program regarding, potentially avoiding impacts to the map species. This is a view, kind of a closer-up view of the wetlands that are relevant to the project before you. So the blue line is the bordering vegetated wetland line that was flagged this June, and you can see the green is the 100-foot buffer. There's also the 75 and 25-foot buffer shown, but you can see over here on this side, this is a town-owned property. The wetlands kind of traverses through there, so there's a little bit of buffer zone in this corner of the property, but most of the existing structures are outside the buffer completely. But as you'll see, the project it needs to go somewhat into the buffer zone and try to make use of the existing tree list in a meadow area. So this is just a quick overview. I'll have April get into more details about grading and drainage, but this is a proposed building of 22,000 square feet, shown in this kind of tan beige color. And the buffers are shown, the 175, 25 foot buffers. This gray area is proposed pavement, and then you can see proposed grading and stormwater basins. All of the work is outside of the inner 0 to 25 foot buffer. Some of it is the grading needs to take place between 25 and 100. So we'll get into that in the next slides. So this is kind of a view of the breakdown of the buffer zone alteration. So as you can see, this is the outline of the building itself, completely outside the buffer, but some of the grading and the stormwater structures do extend into the buffer zone. So the light green is the area from 50 to 100 feet, and that's there's a total of 22,480 square feet of buffer zone alteration. And much of that, again, is in that area that didn't have trees. It was kind of a grassy garden area. A small amount of the dark green is the area between 25 and 50 feet buffer here and here, and that totals 5,480 square feet. Before we get into more of the specifics, I did want to share that we filed a joint filing with National Heritage because it was mapped in the map priority estimate habitat. We received a determination. First, related to the Wetlands Protection Act, the project will not adversely affect the habitat of the rare species, the Blanding's turtle. And the second part is under the Mass Endangered Species Act, they issued what's called a conditional no-take. So they provided 3 conditions that, if they're met, the project will not require any additional permitting with Natural Heritage. And so I'll just quickly go over those conditions. There's a turtle protection plan. So what that means is the entire project, the work area will be surrounded by a silt fence that's designed to keep turtles out during construction. And so depending on when the work takes place, that will be maintained. This time of year, the Blanding's turtles are not active. After October 15th, Blanding's turtles aren't active. But if any work is taking place between April 15th and October 15th, then that fence will be in place. and it'll be, inspected regularly. Second part is this determination letter must be recorded, and that whatever final plan comes out of this process with the commission, those will be recorded. And finally, the Natural Heritage wants permanent monumentation of the limit of work for this project. So depending on if the commission has any changes that come out of this hearing, we would certainly incorporate the monuments into whatever limit of work gets ultimately approved, and that'll be, again, recorded on the deed. So that's an overview of the project. I would want to turn it over to April. She can give a little bit more in depth about the stormwater management.
Sure. Good evening, everyone. There we go. Yeah, can everybody see the plan? I think I moved it around a little bit, but
Yes, we can.
okay, thanks. Yeah, so just briefly on the stormwater, essentially we are designing the stormwater in conformance with your stormwater bylaw in the town and with the state required handbook and their rules as well. And one way that we do that is to try to mimic the patterns from existing to proposed. So just quickly back to Dan's original plan, this is the existing conditions, and essentially from the garage here, the remainder of this whole area goes out towards the wetland, just overland flows. There's no other stormwater BMPs or anything like that. It just heads off. A little bit goes to the neighbor, and a little bit more goes to Salem Street. So in our design, we want to mimic that aspect. So we have, in the purple is the drainage components. And we are picking up all of the impervious area, be it the building and the parking areas. And those are running into, well, the parking areas are running into the catch basins. The building is not running into catch basins, but everything is then being run into the water quality units. And each half of the site essentially is then directed into one of two surface basins that we have proposed in purple that you can see. And this helps us, overflow from that, then we'll head to the wetland. But the basins will mitigate and treat the stormwater before it leaves. And because the site is also in a zone 2, the BMPs are all sized based on the 1-inch rule, so there's a little extra treatment in there as well. And all of the calcs and associated documentation that goes along with each of the standards in stormwater is all in the report, in the stormwater report that was submitted to you folks. I doubt that you want me to go through line by line, but certainly if anybody has any questions about any of the layout or the design of that, I'm certainly happy to answer any. I know that TC Tech is authorized to do a stormwater peer review.
Oh, good.
We haven't, to my knowledge, heard anything back from them, but I know that is going to be forthcoming, so that is another piece that we're waiting for as well. But really just a nutshell version of what the design and what's going on the site. So happy to take any questions if there is any.
Was there a reason that you can't have one catch basin further, looking at the screen, further, north or to the top, as opposed to having to have such a steep grade on the left-hand side? Because you split it up into two separate containment areas?
Yeah, do you mean a catch basin here?
No, sorry, not catch
Or-
basin. the retention ponds, you divided it up into 2 retention ponds now? And
Yes.
my concern is the topography going into the wetlands, it becomes very steep on all sides, but especially on the left. Could you not make just one larger retention pond toward the back to try and keep it a little bit further away from the buffer?
I mean, it is something that we could probably look into. Part of this is firstly not wanting to route the entire site to one system. That's one of the things that often is stressed by the state and by towns is having a non-centralized infiltration system, so you're not localizing where you're discharging, you're getting it spread a little bit more evenly. So that's part of it. The other part of it is that there's actually better soil deeper on the left-hand side over here than there is here. And that drove us to, having them in the 2 places so that we could get more of the recharge and the infiltration happening in the better soil and the deeper soil over here than on this side. These are all 3-to-1 slopes, and we could, if there is some concern about it being close, the berms are pretty wide. They're either 10 or 15 feet wide. We could definitely shrink those up a little bit, and that would help pull it away from that 25 if that is something that is a concern as well.
Right. Is the elevation of the left-hand retention pond, is that higher than the neighbors there? In other words, if that fails catastrophically, is that going into the neighboring buildings there, or is that below it?
Let's see, the 1209, it's below it, because there's a 112 here, that's 110 here, so, and the berm is at 110, so the basin is below it there. So there is kind of a natural berm that we're connecting into here, that this part goes to the neighbors, and this kind of loops around if you look at the contours. So if this does fail, it should go in this direction, not towards the neighbors. And we could add a little, I could probably loop this 111 a little bit more too, if there really is more concern.
Could I address that issue as the owner?
Sure.
Sure.
Yeah, that area on the left is actually the little plaza down there.
Right.
That's all built up. They allowed them to fill that in years and years ago. It is nowhere near the height of that property. That back of that plaza and those buildings is probably up 12, 15 feet from what is the retention area here.
Okay. Well, I got to imagine we're going to have a site walk.
Yeah.
Yes.
So we'll have to look at that. And I got to ask the question, but I think I know what the answer is. It'd be great if you could get rid of the parking on the right-hand side and move the whole building to the right, but I assume that you want access to both sides to make it commercially viable?
I believe that's part of it being coming in as a contractor yard is having the ability to come in both ways.
Right.
I do believe that is part of it. And I'm not sure about moving it, honestly.
Right.
I think part of it is also to meet the parking requirements that we have in our zoning bylaws.
Yeah, there are 40 spaces there, which is required under zoning.
Yeah.
So that is a little difficult to get as well.
Is the intention that when you say a contractor yard, I don't know if you know the answer, but are they going to be storing equipment that has engines with oil or tractors or hydraulic fluid within the 100-foot buffer on that area that's the parking lot there, or who would know?
I can speak to that more from the zoning perspective, because we've talked about that at length. Unless, April, you want to
No, please, because
Okay.
I don't actually have a good answer for that.
Yeah,
Um,
no worries. So, things like that are also covered under planning and zoning in our aquifer protection bylaw. It's difficult to say right now because all that we are permitting is this contractor building, and then spots within it are going to be leased out. And within those spots, we do this with other like condo type units throughout town, they will require individually further permitting, depending on what it is. For instance, we have things that are permitted by right that wouldn't need to go in there, like Baldini and Daniels over on Salem Street as well, across the way. They don't need further permitting, but if something like,
Because they're not storing equipment
Like a
outside.
body shop or something.
yeah, I'm struggling to come up with an example off the top of my head, but certain businesses require further permitting, others do not, which is why for this, from the zoning perspective, they're looking at it simply as the contractor unit, that 22,000 or 20,000 square foot building, but then adding caveats to that decision stating that, you know, basically, depending on what business goes in here, further permitting may or may not be required, depending on what our bylaw looks like. So that's like a way of me saying that that's an answer, but we also don't know yet.
So my assumption is that would cover any kind of fuel storage or whatever, like if they had a 1,500 gallon diesel tank or something, the
Yep.
planning board would
So those get
prohibit that?
Those get triggered through our aquifer protection overlay bylaw, which is part of our zoning bylaw, which the planning board is a special permit granting authority for. So, for example, 929, no, I'm sorry, 929, 931 Salem Street, the Groveland Auto.
Right.
So they had to get a special permit to put a gas station there. So they're having to go through extra permitting, extra engineer review to have those gas tanks where they are. Another example, over on Federal Way, they want to, instead of, for a Comcast building there, they're right now connected to natural gas for their backup generator. And even something as simple as backup generators get triggered because it's beyond regular household use. So they had to get a special permit to switch to diesel generators instead of natural gas, so.
But when does it trigger a permit for conservation? It may not, right?
It wouldn't, because there's no ground impact. We don't permit, conservation doesn't permit use.
Well, but if someone were building a building and it was in the buffer zone, we would obviously put in our orders of condition restrictions on what could be done as far as parking, mechanical equipment in the buffer
Yeah.
zone, that type of thing. So
I would say,
seems like we're losing the ability to make our restrictions in there because it's not, we're not permitting anything in particular.
yes. My concern, though, is where our jurisdiction lies as far as permitting specifically use. As, you know, or I don't know if you mean it in this way, but from my perspective, I see it as the Conservation Commission cannot say, like, yes, you can put a gas station here, yes, you can put a storage unit here. It's more so because that's under the zoning board's purview as far as the true use. Conservation is more so the
But I guess,
Round.
what if a small construction firm goes in there and they decide to park their backhoes and things in the parking spots that are in the buffer zone? We would want to say, no, that's not allowed, and they would have to go to the other side for parking or whatever,
Or
but,
interior parking and not in case something leaks.
well, yeah.
I was going to say, my understanding of how this would run, this is going to get more hashed out at zoning, because that would be more in line with a zoning permit. The zoning board could say under their purview that heavy machinery must be parked interior to the building. they do regulations like, I mean, the zoning board can say whether or not where a dumpster needs to be stored, if it can be screened, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So I think that would be more within zoning.
So that's
purview.
overall, right? Those kind of discussions for the zoning have.
Correct.
Could be anywhere, up on a high mountain, nothing near wetlands. But this one crosses over into wetlands. So are we allowed, as the Conservation Commission, to add to the zoning orders?
Well, couldn't we in our orders put in that there'll be no equipment parked outside the building in the buffer zone or
Right.
whatever, right?
It's part of the wetland protection.
I would think, I would just need to double check that the regulations give us that level of authority. I would think our bylaw does, but not so much the act. I would need to check the act. I just know the act is many, many pages.
Right, I
Yeah,
have
no.
them in
Yeah.
my
It
bag.
would be
The-
within our bylaw.
Yeah.
So we could do that.
I think also with a application such as this that goes through, it's going through planning, zoning, and conservation, it would behoove a representative.
The trouble is that in a building like this where there's no particular pre-planned use, you know, we could just ignore it and say, okay, the building's fine, it's outside of the buffer, et cetera, et cetera. And then, you know, as Bill says, somebody comes in and starts parking all kinds of equipment where it could be dangerous to the wetlands. And we would have no way of dealing with that except to beg the zoning board to do something about it.
And I know that, I think you would, my brain just went to enforcement. If it's in the zoning bylaws, we have a zoning enforcement officer who can much more easily levy fines and whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, I think it can also be collaborative and be in both, too. I'm not trying to say that it can only be in zoning.
It's just, it's an area that's tricky because, you know, say that new gas station that was built on 97, that was brought with us. The whole thing was, it was a gas station, and we approved everything that had to do with the gas station being right next to the wetlands, and it was taken into account in our permit, whereas in this case, if we weren't careful, we wouldn't.
Do we have a copy of the plan,
That's that rolled piece of paper in
the
front of you.
whole plan?
That's the rolled piece of paper in front
Oh,
of you.
okay. Oh, okay, good.
No, you go.
Okay, I was just saying, Andy, can you take an action that, to check, because I know what you're saying about the enforcement, and we can levy fines as a town later on. I don't want to get to that point.
No,
I
of
wanna
course
be
not.
able
That's
to
never the
say-
goal.
I want to be able to say, you know, we're going to designate this part of this parking lot as can never have heavy equipment,
Of
So,
course.
Okay.
I mean, that's putting ultimate trust in someone 50 years from now to do the same, to do that. I'm just thinking if,
I
because
understand.
people try to, I see it in our town and other towns, we might put that in our decision and they won't do it. So then enforcement steps up, is all.
Yeah.
Because I assume that's what the commission would be concerned about, what action could be taken if they were
we
to
have
go
to put
against
granite
the,
Markers there.
I mean, I
Is,
guess,
oops, sorry.
well, I'd like to see what TEC has to say, too.
Yeah. Is there an appetite, do you think, from the planning board, if we would ask them to remove some of the parking spaces and just try and keep everything out of 100 feet?
Yes, well, I have a related question that's explained to us how this is meeting our bylaw restriction on any commercial activity within the 100-foot buffer
Right,
zone.
right.
Tell us what's going on in the 100-foot buffer zone and how you plan on alleviating the bylaw's restriction on that.
Is that the stormwater bylaw?
No,
part of the wetland bylaw.
My know that, I know the commercial buildings have to be 100 feet outside, and we kept that, but, does anybody else know offhand where that is? I've got the bylaw in front of me, I'm just trying to look at it.
Yep, I'll tell you exactly.
Just to get an idea of where the question is coming from, so that it can either be, I can either try to address it, or I can go back and find the answer for you.
I'm taking a look, trying to find that section for you right now. Give me 1 second.
Section 30-2-1?
Yep, general provisions, section, yeah. 30-2.1C3.
So can you read that for us, Annie?
Sure. Groveland Wetland Protection Bylaw, Section 2.1C3, commercial, institutional, industrial structures and associated parking facilities shall not be installed within 100 feet of any resource area as area described in Section 30-1.2, except for 100-foot buffer areas, essentially not giving the 100-foot buffer another 100-foot buffer is what that means.
So it covers parking area and the building.
Okay.
Cut and dried.
Yeah, I will have to take, I'm gonna have to go back and I think have a discussion with the team about that, because honestly, I'm not 100% sure. I do realize it covered the parking as well as the building. So I'm gonna need to go back and actually get back to you guys on that. So I appreciate having the section, so we can go back and actually address it for you.
Thank you. Annie, do you know from planning, I know there's whatever formula they use for the parking. Does it matter that whether it's retail or office or storage, so that whatever formula that is, they take
It's-
into account that?
Yeah, there are many formulas for parking. It's honestly a little surprising. Yes, and they would have to go through a whole new special permit process to get the parking reduced. It's like a completely separate special permit process through planning.
Well, you make the building smaller and move everything
Right.
to the right.
Yes. Yep.
That little sliver of town land is nice upland territory there, too.
What do the commissioners feel about peer review on this? Are we happy with, so TEC's doing peer review on planning?
Yep, so TEC is doing peer review on the civil and stormwater. It's the usual peer review that TEC does for most planning projects.
And they're also reviewing the slope and the build of the retention. easel.
Yep, they're doing stormwater specific. I had them give me a civil review scope and then a stormwater scope. So separate, normally they just do them together, but I specifically for this one asked them to separate it.
But they're not doing peer review on the wetland delineation, right?
No, they do, I don't believe they do environmental work in-house.
So commissioners,
Yes, I agree.
so what do you think? Are we worried about this or not?
Yes.
Well, I'm worried about it, but I don't necessarily, I have no reason to believe that the flagging is incorrect. But
I mean, I would love a peer review, though.
Of what specifically, though? Because it might already be covered under TEC, so I just want to make sure that if it's separate, we're not overexpending resources.
I think primarily, the only thing that TEC isn't going to provide is checking on the wetland delineation.
I would agree. Because they would review the stormwater standards, which is a majority of what's within the buffer zone. So I do think that the only thing that would be different from the conservation a conservation-specific peer review would simply be the delineation of the wetlands.
So, you know, I think that since we could wait and find out exactly what's going in the 100-foot buffer, or what the plans are to comply with the bylaw restriction on that. Or we could decide tonight that it may be, for time, better to go with a peer review on a wetland delineation, because that could impact where exactly the 100-foot buffer is, which, if we're going to be restricting anything on parking, certainly it would be to everyone's advantage to know that that wetland is where it is on this map, right?
I agree.
So what do we want to do? Do we think that we at least want to get some pricing and potential vendors for a peer review, and we can decide it at the next meeting if we want to go forward based on what we're told about the 100-foot issue?
Yes.
I think we need it because when they come with a new plan, we want to be absolutely certain that the wetland delineation is exactly where.
Yeah, right.
So I think we look for the quotes.
So, Annie, if we can contact some of our potential vendors on that, and at least see, are they available, and a ballpark pricing for next time. Okay, so we'll take a moment to, does the applicants have any further things to add to your presentation?
I don't have anything further unless you do, Dan.
No, I think that's it. You know, I guess, yeah, nothing further from me.
Okay. Any comments or questions from members of the audience here tonight? Yes, go ahead. State your name and address for the record, and then you can ask your question.
And we have a microphone coming.
Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Tom Ritchie. My wife, Michelle, we reside at 7 Ashcroft Terrace, which is on the other side of this proposal. I have two concerns. Number one, is any of the proposed building going to be visible from my street, Ashcroft Terrace? And if so, what is it going to look like? Is it going to be something compatible with the area, or is it going to be something very industrial? And my second concern is if there's going to be any type of activity there, what will the noise level be, and when would that occur? Are there restrictions as to when that activity could take place regarding would the activity cease at a certain time of day? Because if it was noisy from, say, example, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m., where not a lot of people are home, that wouldn't be a major concern for me. But if it was something that was happening very early in the morning or extremely late at night, I would be concerned with that.
Sure. So both of those concerns have nothing to do with us. We can't, the commission doesn't, those aren't in our jurisdiction. We can't answer those, but Annie probably can tell us a little bit about zoning and planning that impact that, so I'll let her talk. Go ahead, Annie.
He's exactly right. So those would be fully covered under the zoning board application. If you look at our zoning bylaws under special permit, it specifically actually calls out two of your concerns. Number 4, neighborhood character and social structure, and then finding it, but regardless, the zoning board permits hours of operation. So those are both under the zoning board's jurisdiction rather than conservation. They will actually, by they, I mean the applicant, are planning on being on the zoning board agenda next Wednesday, October 4th. If you're not able to make it that night, feel free to shoot me an email, and I can share it with the zoning board that way. So,
Otherwise, I appreciate what you guys are doing because it's a very nice, pristine area, and we've been in Groveland for 17 years now, and we appreciate the good work that you do, and we'd like to keep the character of the area just as it is because it is so pretty. And, you know, I'm fortunate that we can get to look out and see this beautiful woodlands and how nice it is, and there's all kinds of wildlife out there, so I'm concerned about their well-being as well.
Yeah, so
Thank you.
I guess I would just ask, what do you see today, right? Is that mostly woods? Because they're talking about only
basically,
building
right
on
next to
the-
Nicole's and Groveland
Yeah,
Gas.
So it looks like they're only going to use the same basic, footprint that's been disturbed or used today. So I don't know if you can see that far or not because of what's there now.
Well, we can't see the footprint of any of the buildings there. My concern is if they were to go higher.
Oh, yeah, no, I get that. I was
that's where I would-
was just asking
Sure.
curiously, because we haven't done a site visit, so I don't know what's in between, if it's, sort of, if it's just low bushes or are there trees there?
I think that the forestation is dense enough to actually prevent that.
May I mention that or talk about that as a property owner?
Go ahead.
Yeah, there's absolutely no way in the world you could possibly see anything. You've got all those trees and everything else in between. No house on any of Ashcroft Terrace or Pandora Drive or any of those is ever going to see this building. It's just too much woods and too much area in between there.
Thank you.
Yes, another question back there. If we can move the mic.
Well, I can stand up, sorry. My wife and I, my name is Bob Hollick, and this is my wife Lee. We live in 11 Ashcroft Terrace. And we've just witnessed the house being redone right at Frank's house. And main thing is the septic system. It took them forever to put it in. And it's only a single-family home. Where is the septic system gonna be for that? We're talking 20 garages, and each one has a septic system?
Are they on sewer yet?
That would be the whole parking lot. You
no,
can't
there's
drive
actually-
over a wetland,
Is there
over
a-
a septic
It's
system.
it's on the plan. It's a rectangular area next to the building underneath the parking lot on the left side. That's for the septic.
But that's a parking lot as well, right?
You can put septic systems under a parking lot if it's designed properly for that. If the gas
We just
station,
had a brand new septic system put in where we are, and it took forever to get all the clearances, okay? And it's enough for a single-family home, obviously. But it seems to me there's gonna be a lot of wastewater going in under a driveway or a parking area. If you drive with some heavy equipment over it, it's not gonna crush right through it.
Well, I understand your concerns, but that's up to the engineers to make sure that nothing.
and the Board of Health,
At this point, you gotta limit where the garage or the parking could be. Maybe on the front side only, but the way it was said, there's parking on both sides.
Yeah, right now,
I don't know.
the septic is outside of our jurisdiction, so we really don't, as long as it meets the Board of Health criteria.
Well, you don't wanna put up a building and find out you can't use it because of no septic allowed. right?
Totally agree. I would assume they would get all the necessary permits ahead of time before they build a building, but, you know, that's up to the applicant.
Things you gotta look forward to.
Yeah, no, if I may, just quickly, the commission members are correct in that if you can still see my screen, the septic system or the leach field, and the components will actually be here as well. But it's all gonna be outside the 100-foot jurisdiction. You know, that's the requirement, and that's exactly what we're gonna do. And it hasn't been fully designed yet because we're not permitted yet. But a contractor yard, we've done preliminary calcs on it, and that this box right here would fit, is what you would need for this building based on that use. So, and if that were to change, then the size of the septic has to change. You can only have, the septic system is very regulated in how much it can handle. And the Board of Health is usually pretty strict about that. So, it's definitely something that we are thinking about and have places for. But it will be permitted through the Board of Health, and it will be outside the 100-foot buffer.
Any other comments? Okay, so I think we do want to do a site visit, correct?
Yeah, sure.
So how does Saturday, October 7th in the morning sound?
I can't do that weekend.
That's the long weekend.
Oh, okay. I can't do the following weekend. So we could do it during the week, I suppose, right?
Do you want to, well, I don't know when it's getting dark these days. Did you want
It's
to?
getting dark about 6:30 now. So we could do, 5:30 or something like that.
Or like Wednesday, the 11th, that's our next meeting day, right?
Oh, you want to do it before the meeting?
Yeah, what do you think about that?
I'm away, so I can't vote.
Oh, do you want to do a different date then?
No, I'm away for a while, so don't go by my schedule.
How about you, Bill? Could you
Yeah,
get there at 5 or so, 5:30?
Yeah.
The 11th? Yeah, I can do that.
Yeah, Wednesday, the 11th, should we say, I don't know what time it'll be dark, should we say 5 o'clock?
Yeah.
Yeah, I can shoot for 5.
Does that work for you, Rich?
Make it work.
So is that okay with LEC? 5 PM on October 11th?
That works for me.
And that will be before our next meeting, which is on October 11th also, so you'll be able to roll right here into Town Hall after the site visit. All right. And does the applicant want to allow any neighbors to come on the site walk? Not to say that they will want to, but, or do you want to restrict it to only conservation commissioners?
As the owner, I will be there as the owner of the property.
Yes. Do you want to restrict it to only commissioners and our agents, or do you mind if any interested other residences come to the site walk?
I have no qualms about anybody else coming. It doesn't affect anybody else. We're very kindly, but more than welcome.
Okay, okay, thank you. So, anyone who lives nearby, if either of you folks want to come and just see on the ground what's going to be there, that's fine. Okay, let's see. Any other information or requests from commissioners? All right, so I'll make a motion to continue this hearing until 7 PM on October 11th.
Second.
Any questions or discussion on that? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, unanimous. Thank you.
Thank you, folks.
Yep, thank you.
Very much. Good night.
Okay, next is approval of the minutes from May 10th, 2023. Any questions or changes or comments on these extensive,
Oh, geez, this is-
detailed minutes?
This is,
Can we have a minute, please?
this is,
I said to Mike, can we have a minute?
Yeah, go ahead, take a look at them.
this is May.
Very, very detailed. Does it matter if my name is spelled wrong? Like, do I make them correct that?
We know who you are.
You can correct that.
That is kind of not spelled correctly, is it? Or Telt?
Or Telt. I mean, it's just right here.
Yes.
It's typed. Yeah.
It's like feeding the chairs up for us, right?
You did say something. What? I said that?
Okay, discuss.
That doesn't even sound like me.
Where?
In, under One Manor Drive, where I say, we can stop them from getting a permit for us. Is there a way we
And
can?
then in parentheses, fist pounding on the table.
I want to go back to the tape on that one.
Yeah.
I must have been in a dark place in May.
Or Telt again.
That's correct. Yep.
Is this what it was here?
Over here, it was Bartlett.
Did I do Bartlett?
Just by accident. Sometimes I do that myself.
Spell your name wrong?
Listen, it's really easy to do when you're typing fast.
Oh, is that, yeah, okay.
Oh, she did it again. Telt. I don't recall this meeting.
No,
It's before my time.
you weren't there.
Pre-Rich.
Oh, yes, you can vote on it.
I will not.
I will not.
Can I make a comment, though?
Sure.
Her name was spelled wrong on page,
Let me know what page and I'll fix
page
it.
2-7, 2 of 7,
Just,
just over halfway down on the left.
Okay, thank you.
no, thank you. Okay, motion to accept the minutes as presented with just correction.
One
if I'm-
correction, yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
Is there a second?
Second it.
Any questions on the motion? Hearing none, then, we'll take a vote. All in favor of accepting the minutes from May 10th, 2023, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. 4 yes and 1 abstention. Okay, so Stephanie want to speak about the orders that we're signing for 37 Dwinell.
Oh, yeah, I just wanted,
Doc.
can you just clarify what happened with E DEP?
Sure. Excuse me. So if you've ever taken a look at the DEP's, or the Energy and Environmental, or Department of Energy and Environmental Protection Agency's data portal, that is where the order of condition numbers are generated. Within that, there are different sections, you know, that the DEP is waiting on their fee check, what they just statistical data as far as what's being impacted, and then there's also a location for technical comments from the DEP. There is not a mechanism currently in place on that website that shows either that there are no comments and the DEP has not, and the DEP has no comments, or there's, sorry, I'm trying to explain it well and I'm having a hard time. Basically, it either says no comments or there's comments. So you don't know if that no comments is no comments because they have no comments or no comments because they haven't commented yet, essentially. So when we voted to approve the 37 Dwinell order of conditions, there were no comments. Or I had checked it earlier in the day and there had not been comments. There were then comments after we had already approved it. I reached out to our DEP circuit rider, Alicia Gillen, asking her for her guidance, and essentially there were two options, and it was either to renotice, have the applicant agree to renotice the hearing, or just issue the order of conditions, and the DEP may or may not step in. So essentially, those were the two options. We asked the applicant if they wanted to rehear it or, you know, go through the risk of maybe having the DEP step in and do a superseding order of conditions or something like that. And they chose to move forward with us issuing an order of conditions. So that is what happened.
Do we alert the DEP to let them know?
I mean, I send them a certified return receipt mail of the order of conditions for every single one, so they'll get it.
So they'll know that we didn't see their comments or
Oh,
know
well-
of their commentary?
Yeah, that's,
Okay.
Alicia's our circuit rider for DEP. She's
Okay.
she's like the contact person for agents within the Northeast region.
Okay,
So as soon as the comment thing came up, I reached out to her, so they're already aware.
okay,
And I'm sure with those comments, when it comes back in, I would assume it would already kind of be like flagged in their system type thing. I mean, I'm making assumptions at this point, obviously, but.
What, do you know specifically off the top of your head what their comments were? What did they
No,
address?
I don't.
Was it like interesting, I guess? I just want to
It
know.
was extensive.
It was
let's put
extensive.
that
It was a lack of information. If you give me,
This is for the
dog,
pad,
yeah.
right?
correct.
I'm sort of surprised, because I don't remember, I mean, I could be wrong, but do you remember, Mike, on the 3 or 4 docks that we've done over the years, they've never come back with,
Maybe they're paying more attention these days, which they should be, really,
I don't know.
especially with that river.
My personal feeling is we signed the order, and let DEP sort it out if they disagree.
Okay.
That's my opinion, but I can be overruled.
No, I think, I mean,
Clarification regarding, a more formal project narrative associated with the impacts of the resource area, clarify proposed impacts versus, permanent versus temporary impacts.
Excellent, okay.
Yeah, it's the Energy and Environmental Affairs data portal, and you can look it up based
I
on.
can look it up too?
Oh, yeah, this is like a public,
Okay, cool.
Yeah,
I
sorry.
mean, just for future information, I think it would be useful for us to pay attention to what they're commenting.
We do.
I mean, we always
do, but it's
No, I don't mean that the way it sounds. I just like, for future, I'd be like, oh, okay, so this is what we learned on the last one.
oh, yeah, no, I always check them prior to.
I
It's just
trust
there haven't
that you
been
do,
any,
yes.
and this happened to come in after, because like
Oh,
I said, it's
I
like there's no mechanism for saying.
Right.
Reviewed and no comments, it's frustrating.
Yeah. No, I'm just thinking for future reference for like the next doc or whatever it is.
Certainly. Yeah, like I said to Alicia, lesson learned.
Yeah,
So,
same.
yeah, it's lesson learned.
a minute before we take a vote for anything from now on.
Truly,
But
I was checking, I didn't think the 912 would go through in one night, but I was checking it.
hopefully DEP does something about their reporting facility to at least put on their no comment or in process.
Yeah.
Unless I've just like missed it prior, I don't know. It could be the case, but anyway, that's
Okay,
that.
thank you very much for explaining that.
Yeah,
Thank
of
you.
course.
People talking about the state.
I was gonna say, so I don't think we have any issues with the orders that we put together. I think we went in there, kind of the way we always do and considering all the different things. So I think again, it goes back to if,
I'm not signing it, but go ahead.
So one thing on that, and I'm not concerned right now, because I think I have a good idea after discussion, but I know in our bylaws, it has this thing about, like, you have to have plans, et cetera, et cetera. I can easily make the argument for the average homeowner, like a hand sketch is good enough. But this is a question to the commission, do we want to be a little more vigilant and strict about whatever you give us has to be accurate, and if there's changes discussed, or if you made a mistake, that's fine, but you need to go away, change it. I don't care if you go away for 10 minutes and come back, but just so, like, because what they handed in, there was some discrepancies about, I forget, like the 900-pound blocks versus the helical things, and we talked about it, and now we're videoing everything, but it just worries me a little bit that what's in the folder is not exactly what we told them they can build.
From now on, we are not accepting any NOI submission without it being presented by a
Okay.
professional.
Thank you.
Because this is the second time that DEP has been unhappy with a product that somebody did themselves.
Okay.
Are we allowed to do that, though?
Well,
Yes, we can have that be part of our wetland bylaw. Just for an example, I'm redoing the Groveland zoning board application. For a zoning board application in Groveland, you aren't required to have a stamped land surveyed plot plan. In Georgetown, no matter what your application is, even if it's just, this building's not staying like a new restaurant's moving in, you still need to have a certified land surveyor stamped plot plan. So you can certainly have those regulations in
I
place.
just, what's going to happen, it just adds more money to everything, and
yes, well, it's unfortunate, but I'm telling you, it's so complicated, I don't even I don't understand the process.
no, I'm not there, but I can almost be convinced that automatically on an NOI, we should get like peer review. But I think that's a little bit ridiculous. on
Well,
some
that's
things
a
when it's very
different
clear.
story.
Well, I don't know. I thought it was a good idea at the time, and so,
Well, no, I get where you're coming from, Stephanie, and I think some things are a little,
A septic system
uh,
might not necessarily.
true,
Right,
but
there's
this
some things
is
we're
impacting the
confident
river and the riverbank itself, so like
Oh, no, to Tom's point, not everything may
Yeah.
necessarily
True,
need
true.
one. Like a septic system is pretty
Yeah.
standard.
So our current policy, I think, on peer review is that we don't ask for peer reviews for anything that's not either a subdivision or an industrial, commercial
Okay,
thing. So that's why tonight that fits in. That's why I figured
yep.
we'd probably want to do it.
yep,
Makes sense.
thank you.
So have we got that
I
signed?
signed it, and then the first one, the second.
Okay.
The first one, that's the,
Moving on then to other items not reasonably anticipated at time of posting. So I got a request on Monday for a beaver dam modification permit, which I typically handle these because they're pretty straightforward. This is one that's common. I think you've got a copy of it here. So these are common. This is on state land. This is on state land over at the West Newbury Groveland border there. And there, you got this picture here of the beaver dam. It's like typically every year or two, they're having to deal with breaching that thing so it doesn't flood. So this is the second time this year. They requested one in May. So this is the second time this year that they're trying to deal with the beavers over there. And they have a professional on staff who's got a permit to deal with it, so it's pretty straightforward.
This is, it's to protect JB Little Road?
Yeah, well, I think it's more to protect stuff on the West Newbury side, yeah.
I'm just curious, because this has been going on for the last 30 years.
Yes.
My understanding is we can't get rid of the road because there's one private parcel in the middle that's essentially a pond.
I think it's technically an evacuation route as well.
That road, have you been there?
Oh, I have.
If you have a
You
boat-
can't,
I don't
you
know.
can barely walk on it.
I know,
Right.
we're talking about it as part
No,
of our
I mean,
hazard
I-
mitigate. Oh, yeah, Mike, it came up at our hazard mitigation plan meeting a couple
Oh,
weeks
yeah,
ago.
yeah.
Oh, it did?
Yeah. I'm working on it.
I mean,
Okay. I was just curious.
Yeah, I believe when I've like poked around our MyMap system, which shows parcel owner, I don't believe I didn't know that there was a private,
There used to be one right in the middle of the road, almost exactly.
like within, like where it's closed right now.
Yeah, it's all surrounded by state land. I don't know how.
Cause there's a gate.
I was just curious, because we should dig up the road.
Masscom.
I concur.
It's,
I know.
I think it's all, oh wait, hold on, I was looking at the wrong location, I'm sorry.
it's a nice dam.
So, do we want to leave if you want to take one of these home to look at it, take one home. If not, we'll leave them here, and Annie will keep them in the office so we can look at them again after, because they'll have one at the site walk. We don't need to take one, but we may want to look at it again when we have our
Yeah.
continued
Do
hearing,
they have a
right?
breakdown on the building on access doors?
Planning does.
Okay.
It might be part of this plan set as well. Actually, if you're thinking from the fire department aspect, it would be the building inspector, but they're not there yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
Do you guys require from the fire a certain width to be able to get trucks in there?
Yes.
Yeah.
I believe it's, has to be, don't quote me, but like 30 feet?
And one entrance is fine,
Yeah.
regardless of how big the
As long
building
as you
is?
can get in around the building. You're gonna have to build get around the building.
Yeah.
They have truck turning radius plans, and they're actually pretty funny looking, because it shows like a little fire truck going through the site on like an engineered looking set of plans. We did it for the storage unit facility on Nelson Street.
What a fun job you have.
It's very interesting.
It's, yeah, interesting's a good word. Has its moments.
Yes. Yeah, so that, the issue with the 100-foot and the commercial thing.
Yeah, that,
You know, they knew about this ahead of time. We had technical reviews with them about 3 times on this, so.
So they did know ahead of time? Oh, so why did they? Oh, boy. Okay. Can I, back to this beaver dam, since this person is a trapper, does that mean they're eliminating the beavers as well as
No, they're just breaching the dam.
just breaching the dam, so the beavers have an opportunity
So
to go
they
elsewhere?
come back, they come back and rebuild
I mean,
it.
that's, okay, that answers my question. Thank you.
Them and their
back stronger.
family will
As
be
a
there for
beaver
the next
lover.
couple hundred years.
Can't they
Okay.
put in some device just to maintain the level on both sides so it doesn't get to the?
Yeah,
A beaver deceiver.
right?
I guess
There
it
are
just-
some over there, they're pretty cool.
Yeah, but yeah, but how wide is that and everything?
Yeah, I don't
And
know.
also,
Big
They'll
beaver
just
dam.
build it on the
infrastructure on a
deceiver.
road that no one's driving on. We have a dam failing, I don't think they would,
But it is a road.
it is a road.
Ostensibly.
Yeah,
It is a road.
I don't think you could get a fire truck down it.
Not too well.
I'd like to see it try.
Okay, so what, so Mike, I kind of lost track. So you were just asking for our concurrence?
yeah, I was just notifying you
Oh, okay.
because
Thank you.
it's, I don't think we ever never voted on them in the past. Anybody have anything else? Our next meeting, as I mentioned before, is October 11th, 2023 at 7 PM, and we'll have our site visit at 5 PM. Meeting over there at 912 Salem Street.
I will not be here for.
Tom will not be there, and maybe we can notify Terry and Fred about it.
I'll send out my usual meeting invites
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah, okay, good, good. All right,
Can I make a motion?
make a motion.
I make a motion to end the meeting at 8:14 PM.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Meeting is adjourned.